Hey guys, um, had brought up to some people John chapter 2, verse 13, and that would also be Matthew chapter 12. The Passover of the Jews was at hand, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. In the temple, he found those who were selling oxen and sheep and pigeons, and the money changers sitting there. And making a whip of cords, he drove them all out of the temple with the sheep and oxen. And he poured out the coins of the money changers and overturned the tables. And he told those who sold pigeons, "Take these things away. Do not make my Father's house a house of trade." His disciples remembered what is written, "Zeal for your house shall consume me." And then when you go to Matthew, it's a shorter account, but it says, "And Jesus entered the temple and drove out all who sold and bought in the temple, and he overturned the tables of the money changers and the seats of those who sold pigeons." So it's just slightly different reportings of it. But when you look at what people say in response to this, I mean, I've heard that he used the whip to guide the animals out, but not any of the people. I've heard that God actually drove the people out. I mean, it seems like people are going way out of their way to ignore the obvious. And when you look at the lexicon Greek, according to the passage, say for John 2:15, it says he made a scourge out of a rope or cords and drove. He made a scourge and drove them. And it says pantas, it says all or every, out of the temple with the sheep and the oxen. And to drive means to expel or to cast out or to send. And people that are against the self-defense view, I mean, how else do you honestly take that? The text doesn't say anything about God pushing people out. It says the He, which is Jesus, that made the scourge or the whip, drove them all out of the temple. It says He did it with the sheep and the oxen. I mean, and I don't think this is a hard image to create mentally. You know, whether he actually hit anybody or not, it's not the point. The point is he was threatening them with this cord. That's what the point is. Threat of violence pushed these people out of the temple. Like I said, whether he hit them or not. And, you know, it's the things people say to ignore what the text obviously says. To me, it's pretty amazing. You know, to me, it's just an obvious example. And it fits in the character of being righteously angry. Um, so the threat of violence drove them out the temple, or, you know, actually hitting them. And yes, I'm not saying the text said he actually hit them, because it doesn't say one way or the other, but he is brandishing a weapon against them, and it forces them to leave the temple. And it says all, according to John, every, all people, or everyone. And when you use "and" in language, it's to modify what you're talking about or to add to. So when it says he drove them, he's talking about the Jews. And then it says with the sheep. So he drove them all out the same way. And there's definitely nothing here about God doing it or him guiding them out, you know, one at a time peacefully. Y'all have to go now. Y'all get out. And he's using the whip to kind of pop the animals and make sure that they keep going, and the Jews just get up and walk out. You know, these are people who were actively trying to stone him later on, and they're just going to get up and walk out because he says so. And the text does not say that. That's the most important thing. You know, it kind of reminds me of this virgin birth thing, in a sense, is that he doesn't like what the text says, so you start doing things to it. What the text says is that He, Jesus, made a whip, and he is the implied. He drove them out. Didn't say anyone else drove them out. So on that, but I've been people been sending me stories and stuff about, you know, non-violence topics, and I actually have a little story that I would like to share with you guys, and this comes from Sweden. In 2009, 5,937 rapes were reported. This is an increase with 9% from 2008. The number of reported sex crimes was 15,693. Even the Swedish National Council for Crime Prevention, in a popular poll, considered that only 5 to 10% of rapes are reported to the police in the first place. The actual figure is thus at least 60,000 rapes per year on Swedish girls and women. This gives us 5,000 rapes a month, slightly more than 164 rapes per day. This is a true story about one of many of these cases. The victim is a 12-year-old girl, but it is not the girl that gets the protection of the authorities. It is the perpetrators who are protected and escape and therefore can repeat their crime against the same girl. It is a story that is appalling, but it is true. This is how it is when Swedish politicians and authorities sacrifice tens of thousands of girls and women on the bloodstained altar of multicultural. They think perhaps that this is a low price to pay for the immigration policy that seems to go wide of the mark and possible to reconsider. And I'm actually taking this from a video called Welcome to Sweden. What is it called? Welcome to Sweden, Victims of Rape and Domestic Violence. And he pulls out the articles so you can see them. A 12-year-old Swedish girl was pulled into the bushes in November last year, would have been 2008, by 4 to 6 foreign asylum-seeking boys in the age range of 15. There, the girl is raped, beaten, threatened to life, and forced to oral sex. People hear that something is wrong, and presumably many of the people see what is happening. Well, but few dare to step in. There, the girl is raped. Oh, man. Some of this is moving way too fast to read. There, the girl is raped, beaten, threatened to life, forced to oral sex. People, I'm sorry, I read that phrase. Come on, come on, come on. Someone has the presence of mind to call the crucial telephone number 112. That's 911 for them, I guess. The police arrive and they make the report themselves as the girl is not there. So some of them go fast and some of them go slow, apparently. A police interrogation is held and there is a visit to the doctor. The doctor's stated opinion: consummated rape was not possible to prove since the girl was hysterical in the gynecological chair whenever someone came close to her genitals, but DNA was secured and the various other injuries to her body prove the assault. This is a very abusive treatment of a newly raped little girl, even hard for a grown-up, but this child was horror-struck. And he goes to show on the articles. They're in Swedish, so I couldn't read them. The police sentence interrogation, which means questions about her clothes, if she had not tried to attract the attention of older boys, was she a virgin, etc. Yet another assault now from the police. The boys are reported to the social authorities. The girl is separated from her security, her home, and her family, and is sent to a treatment center for 8 weeks in order to get help to overcome the traumatic experience. Once again, the girl is 12 years old. The girl goes home and discovers that the boys are out in society as usual. They come in and gang and slap her, beat her, and kick her. She is propped up against a wall, pushed into a ditch by 2 sturdy big brothers. This guy obviously struggles with English because he's Swedish, I suppose. They hurl abuses at her. She is terrorized, pursued, and she gets death threats because she has reported them. She has destroyed their honor, so she will die. She was not the one who reported it. It was the police who did. When they arrived to the scene of the crime, they saw what was going on. The girl is in fear of her life. She does not dare to stay outdoors alone. It shows that her fear is well founded. One day when she is on her way to a friend, the boys notice this. They go up to her, push their way in, and rape her again. This time, it is possible to prove. They justify this by saying she has ruined their honor by reporting them, so now they will be forced to pay back. The next time, she won't get away with just a rape. Now they are only nice. The next time, they will take her life. Now it is the month of March. A few months have passed, and what has happened in this case? The boys walk around like kings. Their friends and relatives laugh diversively at the Swedish authorities that do nothing. The girl fears for her life. She now stays in her home like a prisoner day and night. If someone rings the doorbell, she feels the horrors. Is it the boys who have come? She suffers from anxiety, hysteria because of these boys. She does not sleep. She has gastritis and migraine problems, even shows signs of self-destructive behavior and injury, both in action and in thought. What will happen now when the authorities have turned their back on this little Swedish girl and her family? Is that the family will split up. The girl's mother has had enough. She has decided to flee her own town for the sake of the girl. Before November, there was a Swedish family in Swedish town that enjoyed life. The mother went to her job in the morning and the children to the school. Like many other people, she felt safe and secure in their home, in their town, just as it should be. Not going to go on. Well, it says this family does not exist any longer. It was crushed by a gang of immigrant youth. One day in November, these boys are not even punished because they are already injured boys, asylum-seeking refugees. The girl and her family become refugees in their own country, everything because of the fear of taking strong measures when these kinds of crimes are committed. In Sweden, there is an ostrich-like policy, and I think you get the point. And I have a hard time believing, that if you walked up on something like this, 4 or 5 boys raping a girl, like I said, and here it is. The world doesn't even take care of its own. It's who is supposed to take care of those who can't take care of themselves. And if it's not Christians, I don't know. Then there is nobody. I mean, that's just the fact of the matter. Then there's nobody that's supposed to take care of people like this. And I can only wonder if someone involved in this story was Christians, and what that little girl would think of Christians if they had witnessed, if it was the police or somebody, if there would have been someone there that was a Christian, what would you do? Say, hey, stop that. And the boys just say, yeah, well, whatever. No, what do? You just walk away, go to a phone, and you know what I mean? It's, I don't know. To me, it's kind of, you measure out what you get, and if people are going to commit that kind of violence, I see no problem with interfering in it to stop it, even if it means violence. And it's not, it's not the case of, saying I'm going to dispense justice of God. It's not it at all. It's who's speaking for these people who can't speak for themselves. Who's standing up for these people who can't stand up for themselves. And maybe that's the difference. Maybe there are some people who are just incapable, whether it's through fear or their religious conviction, that just can't bring themselves to help somebody. And maybe God doesn't put them in that scenario. Maybe the people who are willing to help, God puts in that scenario. Brother David made a video touching on a lot of these points, and I think he may be right in that sense, is that may not put on you more than you can handle, but it does not mean the person who steps in to interfere is doing something unchristian. I mean, he's putting his life on the line, first and foremost. To get involved in a situation, especially with multiple attackers, you don't know if any of them are armed. You don't know whether you have a gun or not. That's not the whole point of this discussion. The point is, would you do anything? And would that anything be based on the premise of this rape is going to stop right now. It's done. This goes no further. And whatever that means, it means, if you just walking up on them makes them run off, I wouldn't blame you if you chased one of them down and detained them so the police could at least arrest one of them and, find out who the others were. But that's fine. Even if you don't pursue them, if they run off, then okay, there's no need to go out and be violent. On the other hand, if they refuse to stop, what then? To see, that's to me where the problem comes in. There seems to be just this. I don't know how a Christian could just watch something like that happen and not do anything about it. I just, man, that little girl is wrecked, damaged. I mean, it's, like I said, and if there's a Christian involved in that story, then what does she think of Christians? And I think rightfully so would be the point. What does she think of them now? They won't even protect a little girl. And this isn't for the glory of the gospel. This is just some senseless, random, evil people being evil. And like I said, if it came to me, if you rolled up on me and you wanted to rob me and you wanted to do this, I don't have a problem with it because I understand what I am. And I understand that, to me, one of the tenets of being a Christian is protecting the innocent. There's no way you're going to convince me that a 12-year-old girl deserves to be raped or that it's the secret will of God. It's insane. I mean, I don't know. I just don't know how I could look somebody in the face that would just walk by and let that happen. Putting yourself between the girl and them just seems like the Christian thing to do. Whether you would fight or not. Whether you grab the girl, wrap her up in a jacket, and lay on top of her as they beat you, trying to get to her. Uh, that still strikes me as a Christian thing to do. It doesn't mean you have to fight them, but I just don't see where there's a problem with someone who comes between them. And like I said, it doesn't mean you're saying we're gonna fight. It just says, you punks need to understand this is over. This stops right now. This is finished. And then they go on to, and then they rape her again. I mean, how would you feel in that situation if you saw it twice? I mean, it just, there's something profoundly wrong, and Dave definitely hit on that point. My conscience would not, I would feel so convicted and so worthless that I couldn't even, I don't know if I could live with myself after that for not trying. I could understand if you tried and you failed. At least you have that to keep in your mind, is that you tried. You gave it everything you had. So I don't know. That's it on this one. Just some things that have been kicking around. God bless.